Please be seated. Well, friends, some of you know this, and for some of you this will be news, but tomorrow, late at night, I'm getting on a train at Syracuse, and I will be taking this train to New Mexico. It turns out that my son, Blue, has a spring break that overlaps with part of the time that I'll be in New Mexico. So I had a great idea to have Blue come fly out and meet me for 5 days or so at the end of my trip. So I went online and bought Blue an airplane ticket. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine about this a couple days ago, because this will be the first time that Blue takes a plane all by himself. And I think I can feel okay that he's going to get to the airport at Albany. Okay. I think I can feel good that he's going to get through the security, probably find his gate. If not, someone will call him over the loudspeaker and tell him to go somewhere else. However, there is a transfer involved in this flight, and that is in Chicago. And I am much less confident that Blue is going to be able to manage this. Blue has been known to get lost in the kitchen looking for the microwave. And I say this without judgment because I, too, used to get lost all the time when I was a kid, and to be honest, I still get lost. I mean, it's only the advent of GPS that has saved me, right? I used to get lost in my high school. I have a very good friend who likes to remind me all the time I got lost in my own high school all the way through senior year. She would come pick me up to take me to the biology hallway because I could not find the biology hallway on my own. Now, this friend also told me that her mother gave her some good advice when she took her first flight by herself. Her mother said, the way you get through an airport is you just walk and read. Walk and read. I think that's pretty good advice. I have not given that advice to Blue yet because I don't want to confuse him. Flight's still two weeks away. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that I won't be sitting at the airport in Albuquerque and get a call from Blue saying, I think I'm in Alaska. More likely is that Blue will actually be in the airport in Albuquerque and we'll see a sign for like Alaska Airlines, and then we'll think that he's in Alaska and will call me and say, I think I'm in Alaska. So fingers crossed. We have two stories today of leaving one place and going to another. Two stories this week. We have Abram, a very well-known story where God calls him to leave his country and his kindred and his father's house. These are all very important details, even though it sounds a little redundant. To leave your country and your kindred and your father's house, to go to a land, God says, that I will show you. Also important, God does not tell Abram the final destination. Now, the thing about country, kindred, and father's house is a way of communicating to us that this is not just geographical. This is an invitation to a whole new way of living, a whole new way of being in the world. To leave all the structures that you know, Abraham, leave all the ways of being that you know, leave all of the customs that bring you comfort when you are in a time of trouble. You know, tradition has it that Abram was a polytheist. In the Muslim faith, they teach that Abram was a polytheist and then became the first monotheist. If that is true, which it probably is, that means really asking Abram to leave the way reality itself was structured for him. And God says, you will be blessed, and I will make your name great, and it's easy to get stuck on those, but you also have to remember, he says, you will be a blessing to others. All of the families in the earth will be blessed by you. That, too, would have been a major shift in thinking, especially in a time and culture where your family and your clan and your nation were really your only concern. but God's saying you will be a blessing to everyone, a huge expansion. So that, more than the geographical setting, is the new land to which Abram is being called. Our second story about a little journey is about a teacher named Nicodemus. Nicodemus is a religious teacher, a religious professional. He comes to Jesus under the cover of night. Maybe he thought he was at risk if he went and talked to Jesus during the day. Or maybe we hear that it's at night because that's a kind of metaphor. Because being in the darkness is very much a part of a spiritual journey. Either way, Nicodemus is not coming with a question. He's just coming to say to Jesus, I believe that what you're teaching is from God. And Jesus responds by saying something about being born from above, being born from water and spirit. Maybe Nicodemus is thinking a simple thank you would be much easier, because he gets very confused. And then Jesus says, the wind blows where it chooses and you hear the sound of it, but you don't know where it comes from or where it's going. And that's what it's like for people born of the Spirit. It's as though Jesus is saying, Nicodemus, I'm glad you like my teachings, but have you allowed these teachings to get inside you? Have you allowed these teachings to change the way you see the world, to change the way you see yourself and others? Or are you still seeing the world through the eyes of the flesh? Now, to our modern ears, that is kind of a strange term, but I'd like you to try to substitute the flesh with the eyes of empire, the eyes of domination, the eyes of us and them. It's as though Jesus is saying, this has to happen because my teachings are not just a mental cognitive exercise. They are things that you learn as you practice them. Now, the word practice is near and dear to my heart as a musician. For many years, I taught music as my primary job. And there were always people, every now and then, who would come wanting to learn the harp or piano, who would come asking me to just explain all of it. Just explain harp technique, which potentially I could do. But that certainly is not going to help someone play the harp. Or they would ask, if they didn't know how to read music, could you just explain music theory to me? Just the whole thing. Just explain the whole thing to me. And I would try to explain, you can't do that. And furthermore, when you understand music theory, that actually doesn't make you a musician. That just makes you understand music theory. You don't learn music the same way you learn a machine. Or another example, I think it's kind of like learning a language. It's as though, if you understand the grammar of Spanish, then you are fluent in Spanish. And languages, of course, are not something any of us can ever master, even our own language, even in languages in which we have fluency. Because for one thing, languages are always constantly changing, evolving, shifting. For another thing, do you know every word in the English language? I mean, just watch Jeopardy, and I can usually find a word or two that I don't know. How much do you know about the difference, for example, between the word fastidious and meticulous? Or fuchsia and magenta? Now, that is an example I'm bringing to you because I had an 8-year-old once quiz me on that. Fuchsia and magenta. We learn these words as we use them. You can't sit down and read a dictionary and learn a language. Just like we learn music as we play it, as we listen to it, as we sing it. And that is what the teachings of Jesus are like. We learn them as we do them. And what that means is, like Abram, like Nicodemus, sometimes that means doing things that we don't fully understand. Things that don't completely fit within our current ideas of who we are, our current ideas of what is possible, or even what faithfulness looks like. Abram leaving his father's house did not look like faithfulness in his life. It looked like abandonment. Nicodemus heading out to rendezvous with this upstart new Jewish teacher in town did not look like faithfulness in his context either. And maybe I love the story of Nicodemus even more because he's not like Abram, who just sets out. Nicodemus first comes in secret under the cover of night, but the next time we meet Nicodemus, Jesus is being arrested, and Nicodemus is there reminding people that the law is that he should have a fair trial. And then the final time that we meet Nicodemus is when he is assisting with Jesus' body after the crucifixion and brings an extravagant amount of burial spices. He moves step by step, piece by piece, away from his secure and prestigious life as a religious expert into a new land, even though he never left the town that he was in. And you know, this narrative arc of leaving one way of being and stepping into another, this happens with such frequency in the Bible that I've got to think it is somehow central to the Christian life. But how can that be? Most of us do not have dramatic stories to tell, right? But actually, I will say, being someone who listens to a lot of stories from people and has been doing that for many years, I don't think there is anyone, and certainly not in this parish, who doesn't have a dramatic story to tell. But sometimes these stories don't look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like leaving a profession or a homeland or a family. That's big. That is a good story. But most of the time it looks more like suffering loss and doing the hard work of walking through it to a new life without someone you loved for many years. Walking through it but not becoming hardened or mean. Or it looks like inviting someone into your care in some way, even though they may not be your own family. Or it looks like forgiving someone when every instinct in your body tells you not to. Or letting go of the version of yourself you thought you were supposed to be. Or it looks like learning to live with a body that does not do what it once did. Or discovering, even sometimes late in life, that you are braver than you ever imagined yourself to be. Sometimes it looks like speaking the truth in a room where silence would be safer. Sometimes it just looks like changing your mind. Or it looks like staying when leaving would be easier. Or it looks like leaving when staying would slowly destroy you. Sometimes it looks like opening your heart again after it's been broken. Or it just looks like asking for help, if that's something that's hard. Or even harder, maybe it's receiving help. Or trusting joy when it finally returns, even though part of you is afraid that it is just going to disappear again. And finally, I think sometimes it looks very small, like getting out of bed when grief feels heavier than gravity itself, or taking the next right step when you cannot see the whole path, or choosing kindness in a world that continually teaches us to choose fear. All of that is leaving one land and entering into another. All of that is being born of the Spirit. So I think back to the advice to Blue that I'm going to give in a little bit. Just walk and read. Just trust that the signs will appear as you move, that the path reveals itself in motion, and that you don't need to see the whole journey to take the next step. That is what Abram did. That is what Nicodemus is being invited to by Jesus. And that is what it means to be born of the Spirit. The wind blows where it chooses. And we learn its direction not by standing still and analyzing it, but by stepping into it and feeling how it carries us. Amen.